So his hometown is not the best place to go to get like a critical view of Kharge. The place is full, like bursting with his fans. I actually had to find some authentic voice, somebody who could, tell me about his origin story. That is the real rabbit hole I go into.
Hello and welcome to the News Minute. I'm Pooja Prasanna, and today we're going to have a discussion with our executive editor Sudipto on a long but well-deserved profile on one of the most important politicians in India, currently Mallikarjun Kharge. Let's start with discussing why you chose to profile Kharge.
A lot of people, as you know, have profiled him. I just felt like there was a missing piece in the way he had been described. And for me, he's somebody who claimed to be an Ambedkarite Buddhist. And I take a lot of interest in that kind of politics. So I said, okay, let's analyze, let's see what kind of an Ambedkarite Buddhist leader he is.
That's interesting. And you did travel to his hometown as well.
I did, yeah.
Who are the people you've spoken to for this profile? How many of them? Give us a ballpark. And what was it like?
So his hometown is not the best place to go to get like a critical view of Kharge, because as you know, he's won from there, 11 times? Okay, the place is full, like bursting with his fans. I actually had to cut through all of that and find some authentic voice, somebody who could, tell me about his origin story. And for me, the real centerpiece of this story is this gentleman called Topanna Komte, who was his childhood friend and schoolmate. I think that for me was the biggest revelation, because often this question comes up as to, is he an Ambedkarite? What kind of an Ambedkarite he is? So Topanna really gave me a sense of where Kharge's Ambedkarite journey started. In fact, what I got from Topanna is a beautiful description of what that region was like, in the 1930s, in the 50s, in the 60s, and how perhaps growing up for these two young boys back then, Ambedkar, Buddhism, the anti-caste movement is something that they couldn't really avoid, because that was their neighborhood back then were bursting with that kind of politics. Ambedkar used to visit that region very often.
Yeah. Let's not give too much away.
No.
Because of course we want our viewers to also log in. This is a story just for our subscribers. And as we keep reminding you, these kind of stories, detailed profiles, which neither just glorify somebody for the sake of it, nor criticize somebody for any ulterior motive. They are difficult to come by. And it takes a lot of time and effort. Sudipto has, gone to multiple places, spoken to multiple people. So to continue this kind of work, we need your support. Not just are we requesting you to log in and read this story, but also support our joint election funding between the News Minute and the News Laundry. Sudipto, last question I want to ask you. You also found when you'd gone to Gulbarga that in his earlier days, he was a part of Bhim Sena, but he got disillusioned and he quit. What was that about?
Oh, that's what the story is about, really. Because, there is some vague mention about how he was this radical Ambedkarite activist when he was in his 20s. And obviously, I got interested, and when I started looking, there was very little about it.
Yeah.
So that is the real rabbit hole I go into, saying here's a man who was in an organization which at one point was advocating an armed revolt, and he spends less than a year with that, and then he makes his transition into the Congress. And why, where? These are the questions I kind of try and address. Of course, this is a man who spent 60 plus years in politics, so you can't explain him away in a piece. But yeah, that's my exploration.
My last question in today's day and age, where most news channels are just covering campaigning, what Modi said, what Kharge said. Let's just ask you, why can't Modi attack Kharge like he would attack other people? What is it that Kharge brings to the table?
That's an interesting question. See, now you might have noticed Kharge himself doesn't invoke his Dalit identity often. That's an interesting, contrast actually. The contrast between how Modi, the OBC, and how Kharge, who comes from the Dalit background, how they project their identity. You will notice that Kharge rarely talks about his caste identity, whereas for Modi, that is something that has allowed him to appeal to a larger section and project himself as
very central to his politics today.
And in a sense, the question is, he projects himself, or the party projects him as an OBC leader. But the larger question is he somebody who stands for social justice? Is he the kind of leader that the founders of our nation envisioned when they imagined representation for weaker sections? is this kind of politics. And therefore, I feel like, Kharge is an interesting character for two reasons. One, of course, his social justice politics, but also his reluctance or his reticence to talk about his caste. I believe that he is more an anti-caste leader. He likes to see himself as an Ambedkarite leader as opposed to a Dalit leader. And I hope I've done justice to that sentiment in my piece.
I have read the piece and I can vouch for it that it's slightly long-ish. But that said, it's a very, very engaging read. Brilliant piece of reporting and writing. So I would urge you to go and log in and read the piece and also support our journalism so we can bring more such pieces. Sudipto, I'll give the last word to you, your direct appeal to all our viewers today.
Well, Pooja, the appeal really I want to make to our viewers is for them to consider the kind of effort that went into it, not just the effort that went into the writing. I mean, it took about 2 weeks, 3 weeks just to write the piece, for it to go back and forth between Danya. An interesting fact about this piece and how it was put together is that it was peer reviewed by Sagar, who's a senior political correspondent at the Caravan, and also by Ashna Singh, who's an assistant professor at the law school in Bangalore. The reason this much of rigor was put into it is because we understand that something that we put to our readers has to meet that standard, and for that, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. It took almost 3-4 months to put this piece together. It was not cheap. We had to travel. We had to go to different parts of Gulbarga. All of that costs money. It takes time. My only appeal to our viewers and our readers is to vote with their money. Vote for TNM. Vote for News Laundry. Help us sustain our journalism. If you think all this effort was worth it, show it by becoming members of News Minute and News Laundry.